So nice to be here.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Laura Shackelford. Welcome to The Higher View. And today we have as my guest, I'm so excited, one of our own congregants at Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert, Linda Dierks. And let me just tell you a little bit about Linda before we get started. She's an author and a speaker teaching health, happiness through higher awareness. She's the author of a bestseller on Amazon. I've got it right here. And it's called The Quiet Mind, How to Create Freedom from Depression and Anxiety. And she's a contributing author. And she's a host and writer of a video blog, Welcome to My Porch. See, she's on her porch right now. And she's a certified intuitive healer, channeler, master dowser, and energy practitioner, as well as a cancer and depression victor and adventurer. And so life adventurer. So Linda, it's so wonderful to have you here on the show. Welcome.
It's so great to be here with you also. Your energy is so infectious. And because we've worked so much together in the past, this is going to be so much fun.
Right. I remember one of your, I don't remember what class or what it was in, but you had your little dowsing thing, the energy thing, and you did it on me. And that was the first time I had experienced something like that. And that was really cool to see how your energy changes with what you think about and what you feel, right? And that was impressive.
It's a great way to visually show people how their energy shifts when their thoughts shift. And dowsing is just a skill that you can develop to feel energies. And putting it to this kind of application, it's like any other technology. It's not the technology itself. It's the use that we can put it to. And that's what makes it so much fun. I started dowsing, of course, I'm from rural Vermont, and I started dowsing because when I first started my spiritual path, I wasn't really sure where to start. And the American Society of Dowsers is located in Vermont, not far from me. So that's why I started with dowsing. It's been a skill that I've studied with several master dowsers over the years, and it's been a lot of fun to work with.
So I want to hear about your spiritual journey. That's what the higher view is. It's like something always comes, some of us have these intuitive things from a young age that there's more to life than what we can actually see. We don't believe everything. So you have an interesting story. So share your story, because I didn't even know until I read your book I didn't know that you had been challenged with depression. And I think everybody here has had depression or has really been with somebody. Like I have a son who really, is bipolar. And so I understand the challenges, not only for that person, but the people around them, to what can we do to help. Mm-hmm. So kind of tell us about your journey, Linda, about that. With what you went through.
My journey, I want to talk a little bit about depression, and that there are so many spectrums across the board, from seasonal affective disorder to higher degrees, and no one escapes mental health issues, whether you're someone who experiences symptoms, or a family member, you're an employer, or anyone in our greater society. We are all impacted by mental health, and as Science of Mind people, we know how important that is to our overall, life force. I know that I came here, I was sent here. I don't know if I volunteered or if I was chosen, but I know that's a great honor for me to be here and to be working into, coming into this me into this work, as I look back at everything in my life, I know that it has been directing me into this process. And I was already studying what you and I now would call science of mind before I came into the dark ages of my life. And during my dark ages, I lost my job, I lost my identity, I lost my self-worth. I was sick and out of work for years. I lost all of my money. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had had depression issues off and on, and my situation became severe. And I found myself in a situation where I had seen specialists in 3 different states. No one could find out what was wrong with me. I had this, terrible malaise, and there's a backstory to that I'll get to. But I came to the conclusion that if I didn't pull myself out of that hole myself, I was going to spend the rest of my life on disability and welfare. So I just started researching and studied. I studied a lot of alternative healing modalities. I read and studied all the cutting edge wellness concepts, and kind of used myself as a guinea pig, and finally found this miraculous route out away from depression that's natural and it's self-directed, and just this incredible force saying, I do not want my success to stop with me. And I knew nothing about technology. I didn't know how to start this process. And I just kept taking new steps and new steps and new steps. I actually taught my first workshop at a breast cancer retreat in 2005.
Wow.
And so I've been doing this for a while, but it didn't become serious for me. I was not in great alignment. When I first came to the desert, I found the Center for Spiritual Living. My guide showed me that I looked kind of like a Picasso painting. My eyes were here, and I was, like a cubist. And when I came and found the Centers for Spiritual Living, all of that came into alignment for me.
Wow.
And then I took Mary Morrissey's class and I just said, yes, I can step up to the plate and I can do this. And I think we talk about that more in this program about, the importance of people stepping up and at this time, especially in our world.
Well, Linda, something that you said, and I know we've talked about this before, that I don't believe because I believe there's a divine intelligence, whether you call it God or spirit or what, but there's a divine intelligence. And I do believe each one of us came here for a purpose. And I do believe we volunteered to come here at this time to share our treasures and talents and to help each other. We talked about this, we're like the ants pulling each other across the pond to get safely to the other side. And so, I always tell people that when they're going through a dark night of the soul, which yours sounded like more than a dark night, it was quite a journey. But what I believe from a spiritual aspect is that you went through that so that you could help others. And somebody who's been there, who knows, has more empathy, has more understanding what can help other people. So don't you think that that's your calling? That's what you're doing.
Well, it's what makes us genuine and authentic, because we can speak from experience. And this is what gives us the ability to inspire and motivate other people.
Okay, so let's say somebody who's watching this right now is going through has been going through a really bad depression. And like you said, there's different levels, bipolar, schizophrenia, whatever. What was that trigger that finally said, enough, I'm taking charge of this? And was it just you felt like you had hit the bottom and you knew that it was either this or you were gone?
At some point, you just have to say enough. I think over 17 years, I took 14 different medications. And I just said enough. As well-intentioned as our doctors are, they don't know either. You know, the most common phrase I heard said, well, let's try this and see what happens. I felt like they were throwing a dart at the board, and it's so unnecessary. One of the things that I say is that it's our diet and our lifestyle that makes us sick. It's the drug companies that keep us sick.
Wow.
And I was told really early in my work that one of my gifts in this world is to make simple what once was muddy. And my whole style is to bring things down into its simplest forms. You know, we talk about quieting the mind. I talk about inner dialogue, what you and I would call, you know, the power of our thoughts. We talk about lifestyle practices. We talk about natural remedies, just 4 simple things. And the book is all arranged in bullet points so that somebody who's challenged isn't going to pick up a book that's, you know, 365 pages long. It's intentionally a very small book.
It's very thin. And you're right. And you talked about starting with small changes in the book, you know, meditating, to meditate, edit out anything that created tension or conflict. But how do you do that, Linda, when your mind is like constantly bombarded with negative, even with the quieting sometimes, you come out of meditation. How did you handle that? How did you handle that negativity in your thinking?
Well, there's kind of two parts to that. And one is that people think that things have to be complicated to be effective. And I remember when I was in my deepest trauma, I couldn't sleep. I would sometimes go days without sleeping. And I was put into a sleep program at Dartmouth Hitchcock Hospital. And one of the things they taught me was to turn your alarm clock around so that you can't see it from your bed. Now, I said, no. I don't want to hear this stuff. I want the complicated stuff. I want the stuff that's going to be hard to do because only that's going to be effective. And that was totally wrong. It's the simple little things that are small tools that change your consciousness a little bit at a time. And as your consciousness changes a little more and a little more and a little more, these tools get easier and easier. But you have to take that first step saying, this is not difficult. I'm going to do what's gentle and comfortable for me. I'm going to do this first. And then go again and again and just keep taking, you know, I didn't just drop my medications. I already had a meditation practice, you know, staying away from news and media. You know, I was already practicing, you know, science of mind principles and directing certain things. And people may say, well, I can't stop watching the news. Well, of course you can. It's just small changes. And one of the things that just amazed me at the time was that sometimes the smallest things would act as ripples. And all of a sudden, all kinds of, you know, other realizations would trickle down just from one small shift in thought. You know, what I call a pivot of thought would trigger a whole bunch of others. And it was like, you know, the energy just kept changing and changing and changing. And it's really not that difficult. It's just that people have always made it so complicated, and it's just not.
So how long from the time you finally said, okay, this is it, I'm done with I got to do it another way. How long do you feel like it took you from doing these practices and so forth? And so were you slowly weaning yourself off of the medication? You didn't just quit cold turkey, did you, or did you?
Well, I did, but I went on to an alternative medication. It's a natural medication put out by an organization called True Hope. And so I went from into a you know, a mind calming practice, science of mind practice, and that started to change my consciousness. And the True Hope people have counselors that actually tell you, they wean you off your medication and put in more of their natural supplements in place. And I stayed with True Hope, you know, probably for another 5 years. And I just didn't, you know, I think it's difficult for me to look back and see how terrible my life was, and what a waste it is for intelligent people to be crippled in this way. And what was very difficult for me, I had a professional career that was really demanding, and it made my brain unpredictable. And it also made me doubt myself. So it was one of the largest roots to my problems with self-esteem.
Wow.
So you have, lack of predictability, self-doubt, self-esteem. And when I came out of this process, I came out of this, I had accomplished something that I felt was so miraculous that my self-esteem was bulletproof. And I woke up one day and said, no one, regardless of their position, their income, their level of education, was better than me. And, be able to go out and face the world. And, you and I, we all have our self-doubts as we put ourselves out, but, that one big step. And one of the things I'm thinking of when you and I were chatting one time, you talked about that one book that had that break open moment for you. I remembered there was a quote from a book that was that break open moment for me. It was from a book called Speak the Language of Healing, and it was an anthology by women going through breast cancer. And it said, you will lose your breast, and you will lose your hair, and you will lose your dignity from time to time. But you will reach into a deep well of strength and courage that you never knew you had. This is not necessarily such a bad deal. That one line, this is not necessarily such a bad deal, flipped me right out of victimhood and fear. And that's when this whole process became my passion. My passion became my pursuit, and my pursuit became my power. I had a purpose in my life, and I was not letting go of it. And, my guide said, those of you who are super are those who are designated for great growth.
Oh,
I latched right on to those two phrases, and it carried me forward. And, we talk about people having traumatic experiences in their lives, and they start a spiritual path. I don't believe that's the case at all. I believe that they were always on a spiritual path. And this is just Spirit's way of rechanneling us. It's called what I call right pathing. It's just Spirit's way. One of my teachers said, if you're supposed to change and you don't, and you don't, and you don't, and you don't, then eventually your body will break down. The body is the teacher of last resort.
right.
So just those two phrases, you are designated for great growth, and this is not necessarily such a bad deal, just broke the whole, changed, took me right out of victimhood and right on to this pursuit.
I love that, because that's what we teach in Science of Mind. There are no victims.
Yeah.
Unless you choose to be the victim. And I remember I was going through a dark time in my life, and I was in bed. It was early in the morning, and I heard this voice. Said, Laura, it's not that we don't give you what you want. You're just wanting the wrong things. I swear, I sat up in my bed. I thought there was somebody it was so strong, and so I do believe that. I believe, and so what a pivotal point in your life to find, that book and what you went through, and yes, Spirit is there if we're willing to be listening and taking action, right?
Right. And similar to that in my whole concept of just make it simple. You talk about the higher me, everything in the higher Laura. I see consciousness as being something outside of ourselves, what I call the 3 Ps of potential, possibility, and promise.
Oh,
And all of that, the consciousness, it's all coming down to us through a funnel, which is our brain. Our brain is nothing but, it's like a computer. It's nothing but what's been programmed into it. So that's what, my science of mind is. It's what is my funnel attracting, and how big is my funnel? How do I look at myself? One of the greatest things as you step forward in this work is, how do you identify yourself? You didn't always identify yourself as a Reverend or Dr. Laura. Your image of yourself changed as you went through that process. And, the image of myself has changed with this process. So my funnel gets bigger as my identity, as my role and my image of myself changes. I remember when my first article was published in Science of Mind magazine a few years ago, I walked out of the post office with this magazine like it was the Holy Grail. Just like, oh, wow. And now it's changing, how we look at ourselves and how we perceive our capabilities.
Oh, I agree. What popped in my head when you say that? Remember when they used to do the commercial? Well, for Virginia Slims, you've come a long way, baby. Cigarettes, and that's true. And what's so wonderful about this is the courage and to show people that if I can do this, you can do this. And we're here to help each other do this, right? You're not alone. You're not alone. So because of your journey, that's what inspired you to write your book, Quiet Mind, right? Is that what inspired, or how did that come about?
Well, but I believe that we all have come into this lifetime with the skills we need for whatever our lessons are, or for whatever our purpose is. One of my teachers taught me the concept of panning for gold. This is a second chakra issue when we look back at all of the skills that we developed in our lives and how that has led us to what we're doing today. I had a career where I had started in journalism for a small town newspaper before I even got out of college. I had a job where I had to do a lot of speaking. So these are skills that were not alien to me. The biggest stumbling block that I had was a lack of knowledge and technology. When technology first came out, I was in the position where I just said, I don't need to learn this. I hire someone to do, I hire support staff to do this. I don't need to learn this for myself. And, just finding the Centers for Spiritual Living and Jeff Harrison's Idea Lab, the classes that he teaches every Tuesday. This is available to anyone. So that's helped me get over that hurdle. You take a look at what, it's like taking an inventory and, your strengths and your weaknesses. I can't speak more highly of finding your tribe, and as you step forward, I think it was Alan Cohen said that everybody has that paragraph inside them that needs to be written. You would not have the interest if you did not have the aptitude. Energy doesn't work that way. Energy doesn't give you an interest in something that you don't have some of the aptitude for. And all you need is to fill in the missing pieces. But I've been so blessed to have women who have mentored me and to find colleagues. My closest colleague I met at a conference in Phoenix, a Hay House Speak, Write, Promote conference. And she and I work, the focus of our work is very different, but, being able to support one another in this process. So, and what you're doing is not about your likes on Facebook and the followers you have or whatever. It's what you are contributing to the collective consciousness by putting out that work. And it's how doing that work stimulates your own life force all the time that you're doing this. And, you may want to be a poet. You may never be a published poet, but you can go out there and you can read your poetry to the trees, and you're going to expand that energy. And eventually that energy is going to bring the rewards back to you.
Right. You know, that remind about the writing part. I had Diana Wentworth on my show a few weeks ago. Wonderful lady. And I went to a workshop at the Palm Springs Writers Guild where she was speaking. And I thought, which was a really great idea. She said, even if you're never going to publish, she said, it'd be wonderful to write your life story for your children or your grandchildren, you know, because everybody listening, you and I, we all have a story about our journey. And that way you know, that the ones that you love will know what you went through. You can talk about your feelings, what was going on then. And I thought that was beautiful. And talking about classes, you have taken so many courses, haven't you? I mean, you have this drive. And so, you know, you're a certified intuitive healer, a channeler, the master dowser, and energy practitioner. So what inspires you to take classes? Do you feel spirit is guiding you to certain things, or how do you choose, like the intuitive healer? What got you into that? Is it because of what you've been through? I mean, I'm just curious.
There's a great story there. This is an example about, you know, I say, when you step up to the plate, spirit steps up to the plate to meet you, and it becomes a constant escalating process. And I stepped up to the plate. I was a member of the Rotary Club, and I invited one of our speakers to come have lunch with me because she ran a Wounded Warrior project, and I wanted to learn more about trauma for the work I was doing. And she said, well, you know, you should talk to this person. And I contacted this woman, and she did a reading with me. We ended up having lunch, and she said, I want to gift you a scholarship to my certified intuitive healer program. I mean, this is how spirit steps up to meet you. I think it was Dispenza who said, it will happen in such a way that it leaves no doubt as to your connection with a higher power. Yeah. If you take that first step, spirit's going to take the second step, but you have to step up first. And when you do, spirit will be there for you. I promise. I mean, it was what I called like a marble in a groove. Gates just kept opening for me, opportunities. My first article in Science of Mind magazine was a milestone for me. That happened because I was taking an online course with Reverend Gloria, and I wrote this paper for my final project. And she said, you know, you should submit that to Science of Mind magazine. I mean, this is just how it happens. I was a speaker a while back for the national news service, Optimist Daily, who invited me into one of their first, I'm an emissary. And they were looking for someone of their readers I just happened to have, they ran an article about mental health. And I just said, hey, I'm so glad you're talking about this topic. Here's a copy of my book. And they said, oh, how about that lady that sent you the book? You know, these are how these things happen. And it comes from, it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from here, going out and coming back to you.
And don't you think too, it's because that's your passion too. I mean, that's your calling and now your passion. And because you're living your passion and you're living your purpose, really, you're not making excuses about, oh, you know, I won't make any money, or who do I think I am? You know, you are living your purpose. And when you do that, the universe is there supporting you all the way.
Yeah. Do not let your ego get in the way. You know, one of the greatest things, I was told to take the summer off, which I did, and I did a lot of, you know, consciousness enriching. And one of the things that really helped me was this simple phrase from Buddha that says, no self, no problem. Take your ego out of it and just continue with what your heart is pulling you to do, because that's where, you know, our brain is a flawed mechanism. Everything that our knowledge and our function. Your brain actually takes its direction from the heart. And if you get out of your brain, and this is, when I was talking about simplifying things, we all want transformation and so forth. If you could just quiet yourself and listen to your heart, that is the foremost skill. And then follow what that tells you. Then try to get the fog out of the way, get the ego out of the way. We talked about the funnel earlier. One of the greatest constrictions of that funnel is fear, self-doubt, victimhood. You get rid of those things, and your funnel's going to get bigger.
Right. Wow. Wow. Well, Linda, you're amazing. So presently, I know you're writing another book, or you're ready to publish it, or what's going on with you?
Well, I quiet mind will always be my foremost passion, and because of what I've learned through Jeff and experience in other areas, I'm in the process right now of retooling that and making it more professional. The title of the book is being changed as we speak to Quiet Mind and Natural Freedom from Depression and Anxiety. I think it's important to impress that this is natural and drug free. And last year, working with the Idea Lab, I developed 12 lessons of weekly affirmations, tips, exercises, a coaching corner, greater inspirations, and videos with me in 12 lessons. I'm in the process of organizing those into a Facebook group page. And when I have a clearer, cleaner, more professional presentation, I'm actually going to look for an agent to market this for me. It's beyond my capability. And I'd like to see it as something that's offered by insurance companies, employee assistance program. I used to work for an EAP program, counseling program, maybe even into Sounds True or Hay House. The whole point is, as I said, I don't want my success to stop with me, is to just get it out to the masses. And if you put a piece of it online that's free, then it's available to hospitals, military, homeless people. Anybody with a telephone and an internet connection can have access to this. And it's not only, the process isn't just for mental health. It's for anybody who wants more joy or stability in their lives. So it's not only, a mental health issue. It's also a consciousness raising issue of bringing people together. And we talked about that, the anchoring of what's coming into this new age. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is there's a lot of chaos. It looks like chaos. I was listening to a speaker the other day and said that in 2100, we're going to look back on this period and it's going to be celebrated because of COVID and what was going on at this time. There was a massive change in consciousness on this planet. And so I just got, I always get God bumps when I know that is the truth. And what you're doing, Linda, I just honor you, because there are so many people out there, like you said, going through different stages of depression, maybe not as severe as others, but I think a lot of our homeless issue too has a lot to do with people that have mental challenges and depression and feel hopeless. They don't even know how to begin. And what I love about what you're sharing is it's like a roadmap. If you take this roadmap and you do this, you can change your life.
Yep.
But the thing is, you have to believe it and you have to work it. We each have to do our work, right?
Well, that's what you have always said, what we always say, but you have to do the work. But I'm saying you can do it in subtle shifts and habit stacking. But we are looking into, we are anchoring a new earth.
Yes.
And we are moving into unity consciousness. We're looking more at a consciousness of we and not me. That whole innovation. And I spoke before about this, my consciousness outside the brain coming down through this funnel. This consciousness is, as you can pull out and cement the higher concepts of love, joy, compassion, health, then you generate a greater vision. And from this vision comes the innovations in education. My big thing is innovation in healthcare. So we start with the concept and the energy of love and joy. Then the second tier is the vision. The third tier are the innovations. And one of the things my guide showed me was each of us as like a rod of light, standing here and here and here, all of us pulling in that energy, being anchors between that energy and earth. We're kind of like little mini lightning rods. And then talking about how we come together and do this, just being an explosion of, pulling this energy in. And I had the great fortune of participating in the new Invention Circle last night and seeing the power and the potential behind what that can accomplish, not just for us as individuals, but also for the planet, is enormous. So here we have a new role for the spiritual centers like CSL of bringing people together to anchor this great energy coming in. It gives me God bumps just to think of it, that we all in our whatever consciousness we want to contribute, we all are playing a role.
Absolutely. And, I was thinking with the COVID, I was on Facebook the other day. So many CSLs now are doing live talks. Their services are live on Facebook. And at first I thought, well, gosh, but really, I remember thinking years ago that Centers for Spiritual, it was Religious Science International, and they had a rule that you couldn't have another church center within a 12-mile radius, and they lifted that. And I remember Dr. Tom went crazy. He went, "Oh my God, that's terrible," And I go, "No," I said, "I think it would be great to have spiritual centers on every block, like Wells Fargo or Bank of America, because people hear the message. They're attracted to certain people. They might not get the message when I say it or you say it, but somebody else, they get it. I think we all have our own way of giving this message to the world. Just like you said, you've attracted some incredible people into your life because that's your energy. That's the universe supporting you. Somebody might go to another center because they have to meet this person to connect with them to do what they're supposed to, what they want to do, what their soul wants to do.
Right. And linkages come to us in many different ways. Recently I found a perfect Chinese fortune cookie saying on the side of the road that was a perfect image for a thing I was writing for my blog. But there are 2 points I'd like to make. One is that you may not think that you're good enough, and no matter where you are on that ladder, there's somebody who needs to hear what you have to say. And you may not think that you're unique, but you may say what you think somebody has already said, but you're saying it in your unique voice that may resonate with people more than someone else could. You have your own unique experience and a frequency that can reach people. And it's just a matter of doing it. And I had there's a colleague again that I met through Enlightened World Network. She comes to Palm Springs on a writing retreat occasionally, and we met at Sunnylands yesterday and walked around the garden. And one of the things that we talked about in our work is that don't expect to be a smash success right out of the gate. You're going to learn things and you're going to fine tune them, and you're going to learn something else and you're going to fine tune it. But the most important thing is that you find your voice. I did a training program with Gail Larson at the Omega Institute and called Transformational Speaking. And that was, the whole gist of the program was find your voice. Don't Wayne Dyer, find your voice, because your experience and your voice and your genuineness and authenticity is what's going to resonate with someone else, your unique story.
I love that, because there's always going to be somebody that has more knowledge or more training than you. But all you need to do is, like the ants, pull the one right next to you that they don't have as much knowledge, and you can help them. And what you never know how, I forget where I don't even remember who it was, but I remember reading some minister only had like a few people in his church, but then what came out of his church was like somebody amazing who went to his church. And I don't remember who it was. I don't retain names very well that way, but that's it. You don't know how you could be a catalyst for something even more amazing than what you even encountered, because you sparked something in somebody else that,
Right.
that was that. And so I love the synchronicities. It like, wow, that was really lucky. Was it? Was it really? Or was it already in the works, because Spirit knew what your journey is and planted those people that also needed you. And they'll put you together, because there's somebody out there sending out that energy that, oh, if I only had this answer. And then there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, again, when I say, a pivot of thought, and there are little things that you can start with, aside from just really putting yourself right out there, that start to shift that consciousness. And the number one thing that I and my colleagues, many of my colleagues work with, is the importance of women supporting other women, especially, going into this role. Find other people who are doing the same thing. And even if, they're at operating a higher level than you are, everybody wants to help everybody else. No, we're not here to compete. We're here,
to raise and praise each other.
That's excellent, to raise and praise. And then just little things like, every time I see an ambulance or a fire engine go by, I send, love and peace to whoever's at the receiving end of that. Take a look at your driving habits and attitudes. There's just little homespun ways that you can start to shift.
Right.
We're working on tailgaters, but
Well, and when I think about it, when I'm driving, I just start sending love to every car. Sending love. And the thing with the masks, us having to wear masks, I just look at people and see the God in them, and want them to know. I mean, I'm smiling. I don't know if they can tell if I'm smiling, but I want to smile at them, because I feel like we're all in this together, and every person you see, even the ones you may not care for how they're showing up, they're still a part of God. They're still part of that oneness, and they're here for a reason, and we're here for a reason. And so, yeah, the talking about the women thing, years ago, I can't remember how many years ago, when I started Soul Sisters. We're not doing it right now, but when I started Soul Sisters, I had gone up to one of our congregants' house, and she lived on a vortex, and she said, the goddess wants to see you. And I go, okay. So I said, all right. So I went up to her house, and she took me up the mountain and sat me down, and she said, all right. And so I said, okay. So I started meditating up there, beautiful view of the valley down here and from up there. And I just got this download that it is past time. Women are needed in the world right now more than ever, that consciousness. And you need to start a group where women can come together to support each other and so forth. And I got an acronym when I was up there that I don't use too much, but it's called I am a bitch. I am a being inspired to change humanity.
Being inspired to change humanity.
So if somebody calls you a bitch, this isn't very religious, but you say thank you, because I am a being inspired to change humanity. And so I do think I just think that all of us are being inspired now, not just women, but all of us. But women need to really own that power that they have, that has been, that they are such contributing people. I mean, if you look at our center, what's the vast majority of our congregants are women. They are older women. And I think that, I don't know, it's because we give birth or what it is. But this is a time, and I remember when I did some work with Neil Donald Walsh up in Oregon, and Barbara Marks Hubbard was there, and she said, it was just an amazing woman. She said, the world is just going. Of course, that we're in the heavy labor right now. At that time, she said, we're just giving birth. What we're going through are those labor pains to birth something new and amazing, and what the work you're doing and so forth. So tell me about your website and what you do on you've got classes, and what, you got how did you get that spin straw to gold now? That's really I love that.
Well, that just came to me, and I was a dear friend of mine is an architect and was going to do some of my early graphic work. And initially it had a Mobius strip. And my mentor Meredith, who gifted me the program and has remained my mentor for a long time, and we worked together. One of the hardest things is to define your work. One of the hardest things is to define your work. I went to a Hay House conference called Speak, Write, Promote, and along with Gail Larson helped me define, what that was. And what was your question again? Oh, about the
how you got the spin straw to gold now.
That what I do and what we're all doing in a way is transformation. And that whole spin straw thing is that you're taking something basic, you're taking something organic, something from the roots. You're taking the straw and you're spinning it through your consciousness to create something higher. And that was the spin straw to gold. I come from a background with a lot of my mother was a kindergarten teacher.
Oh.
The whole, Rumpelstiltskin and nursery rhymes were rife. I now work with another mentor. Her name is Neela Manocha, and she's out of the UK. And in one of my next steps, I'm going to step out. It's time for all of us to step more fully into our gifts in service to others. And I'm going to step out and be doing clairvoyant work. And I was sent the name actually from a higher source of soul sailing. So soul sailing is under construction, will be posted on the website in a few weeks, just speaking at groups and working with people one-on-one. And maybe we'll talk more about that. But the classes and quiet mind, putting them into a really clear order. Again, it comes back to being able to listen, to quiet and listen. And the biggest thing is to get rid of the self-doubt and to be able to hear these things coming through to you because it's all there.
Right. Now, what did you say that I know you told me that for the sailing? Explain that, because you were explaining it to me before about the sail.
Soul.
Mm-hmm.
And this was sent to me by Uriel, who is your angel of your work and your purpose in your life. Soul sailing is about calming the water, clearing your vision, and setting a higher course. And using my certified intuitive healer skills, I scan people's energy, which will tell me, how much is there and how vibrant it is in your different chakras and what they represent, your connection with your higher power, your vision, your joy and inner peace, relationship with self and others, and so forth. And I can go in then only with someone's permission and pull out images that represent what's going on in maybe in their attitudes or beliefs that are causing an imbalance for, perfect energetic alignment to move forward. So I can see people as they are, as through their imbalances and so forth, and as they can be, to help lead them, help them, balance out their imbalances and lead them into a higher course, whatever that might be. It's gonna be fun.
So are you able to help? Because a lot of times, a lot of our blocks are so many things that are in our subconscious mind, beliefs that we're not even really aware of. And those are the patterns that keep us having the same thing. I always tell people, they say, oh, I remember I took a deposition one time and an attorney which was true. Every deposition I took, it was always a fight. It was always this antagonistic, yes. And he turned to me one day and he said, Laura, why is it every attorney I work with is a jerk? And in my mind, I thought, what's the common denominator? Right? Because if you have people in your life, you say, oh, I'm always running into people, that do this to me or that, this victim mentality. Well, what is the common denominator? It's you. And so we need to look at ourselves really always, because there is no one else. I remember Neil Donald Walsh says, you know what? Linda, you're not even here. It's just me. That's just a part of me talking to me, because we're one and there's nobody else but the one. And so everybody shows up in our life as a mirror to show us what we need to heal. I studied Ho'oponopono with Dr. Hugh Lin, and that was what he said. He said, if something shows up in your life that's negative or you see it, then it's your responsibility to heal it, by sending it love. I'm sorry for anything I did that may have brought this about. And please forgive me, and I love you. And you're thanking them for showing you still have work to do on yourself, right?
And again, you can reveal to someone, something that needs to be healed. Maybe it's a past life trauma. And they say, well, how the heck do I heal past life trauma? But again, you start small. You start with calming the mind. You start with affirmations and visualization that actually reach the subconscious and can help, mitigate these things. And the images that come to me normally are in a vocabulary that the unique things that I would understand, like sleigh rides or something like that, which would mean nothing to someone else. Right. Often images will come to me that mean nothing to me, and I will put them out to the person I'm working with, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that was a really big issue," or something, and it will reveal things. But I just had a flash on something you said before about writing histories or genealogies or whatever, just putting things on paper, not thinking that your voice is unique. One of the things that is big part of my identity, although I consider myself the home, the desert my home, but I'm a 5th generation Vermonter.
Yeah.
And the richness of my heritage is so deep. And over the years, I took the little stories that my mom and my dad had given to me that were just amazing about, farm life and how you did things without complicated hydraulic machinery and so forth. And I put together all these little vignettes. And my brother's grandchildren who live in New York City absolutely love them. I mean, it's, what isn't necessarily unique to me about growing up in a rural environment and in an agricultural environment is just rich gold to someone, who lives in Manhattan. So, your voice always has a place. That's what's really important.
Absolutely. It's like the chicken soup for the soul books, little vignettes, little stories that have such sweet tenderness and meaning to people, and that people can relate to that. Wow, that was the time, it's like, it's just, like we love the old English movies where they're, the way they dressed and just what was going on, just things like getting your first rotary phone. What that was like. Remember,
I remember a wooden phone on the wall with a crank on it.
But I still remember my number, PA26789, and it was a party line, and I would like to
Yes.
listen in, right? And so, yeah, I think that's great. Well, we're almost out of time. So, is there anything you want? I know. Is there anything you really would love to share at this last minute to how people can get involved with what you do and learn more? Go to your website. We've been putting your website there for people to go to but just to know they're not alone, that they don't have to go through depression and they can change their lives. It's just one step at a time, right? It's like you don't run a marathon. Look at what beautiful. I love that picture of you, by the way. We don't run a marathon. We don't decide one day, I'm going to run a marathon and do it. It takes practice and it takes training for things. And that's what life is a training ground.
I think one of the first things I would say is life balance. We all have responsibilities, but make sure that you make the time for what I call stimulating your life force, which is wonder, excitement, inspiration, everything that just makes you ping. We have to balance our responsibilities, but make sure that you're really stimulating that life force all the time. In bad times, and I've had this flush come through me of just reinforcement of wellness, and I will always know that you are loved and supported, and you are never, ever, ever alone. And that's why your work is so important. I'm sure, I would love someday to hear what your early days were like before you became, Reverend Laura. But we all did it in small steps, and we all had our heart. And in the dark times, we found something supporting us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Linda, I know that Linda had signed up to take practitioner class, and she was there one day, and I went, oh, but you have so much. You are already a practitioner in your own way. Oh, absolutely. This is such a unique. You are needed here more. We have plenty of wonderful prayer practitioners, but the work that you're doing is so broad and so wonderful, and there's a consciousness there, and it's reminding us of who we are. To remember is to and become member again, become whole. And so that's what you're doing. And here, how long have you been coming to center? I didn't even know any of this about you.
Well, I started actually at the center in Palm Springs, and I came down to your center 6 years ago. So,
wow.
So I've been there about 6 years now.
Well,
and, as I say, everything. I was a mess. I was still a mess from my dark age. I came to the desert to be a support person for my father. That's what brought me. And find your tribe. If you write poetry, find other poets to work with. Whatever it is that you're painting. But I found my tribe. I started taking the classes, and I'm a huge believer in finding your tribe and continuing education, because through the continuing education, you also find your tribe.
That's right, because they're all on the same path. They're all looking and wanting the same thing you want. And I totally agree. It's I had, I knew you were doing the dowsing thing because you brought that to one of the classes, but I didn't know about all of this. And I had seen your articles in the Science of Mind magazine. So we are so wonderful. So wonderful to have you here. I feel so blessed. And I just want to remind people to please donate to Center. There's a button there you can donate to support Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert, so that we can continue to bring such incredible speakers, inspirational speakers. Next week, I have Walter. I don't know if you know Walter Drew or Barbara Drew, but they have a creative aging class, and they have people that are, that the second half of your life is the best, and to really don't think life is over, and they're going to be fun and they're wonderful. So to have you on here, Linda, when you get your other thing all done, your new thing, we'll have you back so you can explain it to us and let us know what's going on there. All right.
And I can't wait to watch Walter Drew, because a lot of this for us is second chapters in our lives. So thank you for being here.
Yes, I'm really excited about that. So I love you, Linda Dierks. Take care, stay healthy, keep doing the work that you're doing, because the world is being blessed by you. And thank all of you who joined us today. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next Thursday on The Higher View.